Distinguished guests, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, all rise. The Lord Mayor, Councillor Craig Simmons.
Thank you. Please be seated. It's a great pleasure to see so many of you here this evening. And so welcome all the guests, councillors and friends amongst you. And we've had many, many messages of congratulations, and some of them will be showing later in the reception area. I'd just like to welcome in particular Ambassador John Licht, Deputy Ambassador John Kubak, members of Parliament Alex Open and Annelies Dodds, and you'll hear from Annelies later. And also we have a large contingent here from the Netherlands and also from Papua New Guinea. So welcome to our visitors from afar, and you're very, very welcome here in Oxford, very welcome to this ceremony. So, thank you. The order of business today is slightly unusual. We'll start off with a sort of more formal council meeting where we're going to take the vote on the conferment of freedom of the city. And that'll be largely sort of with councillors over here to my right, the group over there, the ones with the gowns mainly. And we'll have a proposing speech and a seconding speech. And then we'll open out, then we'll have a vote, and then we'll go to some guest speakers we've got, and then finally we'll be conferring to Benny at the end, and he'll be then responding to that. So, with that, thank you very much. I'm going to be proposing the motion. So it's indeed with great pleasure and honour that I'm able to propose Benny Wenda for freedom of the City of Oxford. It's an honorary title, and it's conferred upon those who typically have some association with the city and have distinguished themselves either in service of the people of the city or on the international stage. And I originally proposed Benny Wenda not only because he meets those criteria, and we'll no doubt hear from many other speakers this evening about his many achievements, but because he also embodies much of what we feel is great about us. When I say we as councillors, Council more broadly, and that's regardless of our political affiliations. Many of the values we hold dear and share amongst us are embodied in Benny and his work. And of course, I had no idea when I proposed Benny for Freedom City, I'd be sitting and standing here as Lord Mayor and actually presiding over the ceremony as well. These things have a strange way of happening. And nor had I decided, of course, at that point what my year as Lord Mayor would focus on, and I very much ended up focusing on making Oxford a welcoming city and encouraging the diversity and cultural richness that is Oxford. And in fact, one of my charities for this year is Asylum Welcome, who very much are working in that area. And of course, Benny came to the UK seeking political asylum. And we often talk loosely about Oxford being a city of sanctuary. But for Benny and later Maria and young baby, Oxford was genuinely that place of refuge. I mean, that place of safety where they could escape from suffering and persecution. So we have in Benny and in the conferment of this award very much embodied that idea of the city of sanctuary. And those who know Benny will know that he sort of rarely speaks in any detail about his incarceration in Abergora jail in Papua. And I had to go back to some of the witness accounts that were used in support of this asylum case in the UK to actually find out some of the sort of quite gruesome details and grisly accounts of the conditions that he faced, the threats to life and limb that he endured, and the scars that Benny still bears today. But of course, as we all know, with outside help, Benny did escape, and after being granted asylum in in the UK made Oxford his home, and that was more than 15 years ago. And though now a British citizen with a deep love for Oxford, he told me when I was speaking to him recently that his wish is very much to return to a liberated West Papuan, a free man. He left with tears in his eyes, and his deepest wish is to return. So Benny founded the International Free West Papua campaign in Oxford, where it's still headquarters, and spent his time as an international lobbyist. We have here in the audience here many of the people who he works with in that role. And the campaign has a very simple goal, and that's to peacefully seek an internationally supervised independence vote for the people of West Papua, something that was denied by the UN when the region was handed over from the Dutch to Indonesia in 1969. And it's the 50th anniversary of that this year. And his cause is a very popular one. Earlier this year, he presented a 1.8 million person signature petition calling for the vote to the United Nations Human Rights Commissioner in Geneva. And that represents a staggering 71% of the indigenous population of West Papua. And last year, when that petition was in Oxford, I did manage to see it. It was a very special occasion. And I lived through the page and I was very touched by many of the signatures signed in blood. People, and we weren't allowed to take photographs of it for fear of the names being released and people suffering from their identity being revealed. And the West Papuan cause has indeed drawn together politicians of all hues. We have some MPs speaking tonight and here in attendance, it's very welcome. Andrew Smith, of course, our former MP, was a big supporter. And just 2 months ago, we had the first parliamentary debate on West Papua, and with contributions from Alex Sodal and others. And I recommend very much you read the full debate in Hansard, because it's quite moving, and I was encouraged by that. It was presented by Robert Courts, Conservative, but we had lots of support from Alex Labour, DUP, SNP, and it's very much that it's clear that the issues touch people across the political spectrum. And I'll just read a very short extract from it. Benny's story will bring a tear to the stoniest eye. Benny's father was in fact one of the 1,025 representatives handpicked in 1969 to vote in the Act of Free Choice, and that would determine the future governance of West Papua. Benny says he still remembers his father telling him how he had been threatened and told that he and his whole family would be killed if they voted for Papuan independence. Of course, for more than a decade, this council has recognised the legitimacy of the West Papuan claims. On 1st of December each year, Independence Day, we hoist the flag. West Papua have done so for more than a decade. And that simple act of solidarity, we were the first city in the world to hoist the West Papuan flag, had repercussions around the globe. Benny tells me it's covered by the media in New Guinea, bringing fresh hope to the people in West Papua, and led to other cities following suit. In Australia, New Zealand, the Netherlands and neighbouring Pacific islands, such as Vanuatu, the flag is being flown now. As a result, direct result of us in Oxford, that act of solidarity that we've made. This week I'm told that the peaceful prayer meetings are happening across West Papua, celebrating and honouring the preferment of freedom of the city and Benny. And I've received numerous letters of support. We've tried to piece together some of those messages and put them on a presentation in the reception area, so you'll get to see the breadth and depth of support. What we are doing here and now matters, not just to Benny, Maria and their wonderful children, who have contributed themselves so much since they've been here to Oxford's communities and its cultural richness, and whose tireless campaigning for a peaceful, just and fair diplomatic solution has inspired so many. It's not just the people of West Papua praying for their freedom, but what we do here matters to people everywhere campaigning for self-determination, a fundamental human right. Councillors, addressing you. We need a two-thirds majority before we can award the Freedom of the City to Benny Wenda, and I graciously ask you for your support when we get to the vote. But firstly, thank you for listening. I call upon Councillor Richard Howard to second the motion for the Freedom of the City on Benny Wenda.
Councillors, everybody. It's a real pleasure to stand here and formally second this motion to confer this honour on Benny, and it makes me incredibly proud that as Oxford City Councillors we're about to take the action that I hope we are. I very much echo all of the reasons that Craig has fantastically outlined in terms of why it is so important that we take this action. And I'd say a few words about the view that Craig has talked about that Benny had of this city as a caring place which cultivates support for those challenging injustice, and that's a version of this city which I think we should cherish and continue to aspire to. That we should continue to see ourselves as a city which uses its great privilege to support the most oppressed, both here and around the world. As Craig has said, this award builds on a long history of support from the city for the West Papuan struggle. Our former MP, Andrew Smith, co-founded the parliamentary group on West Papua with the former Bishop of Oxford, Richard Harris. And again, as Craig mentioned, this hall sees the West Papuan flag raised every year. So whilst I've been aware of Benny's work since moving to Oxford myself around 10 years ago, I've never been closely connected to the campaign in the way that many in this room have, but we've received many letters of support from around the world. Extremely pleased to see the action that we're taking today. And I wanted to quote from one of them, a letter from Jennifer Robinson, who will be known to many people here, a barrister at Downton Street Chambers. Jennifer acts as Benny's lawyer and first met him whilst he was a political prisoner back in 2002. She then moved to Oxford herself to study law, in large part because of Benny being based here. So Jennifer's unable to join us due to work commitments overseas, but I just wanted to share some of her words. So, I would like to convey my sincere thanks for the principled decision you and the Oxford City Council have made in granting this honour to Benny. It has been a great privilege to work with Benny over the past 17 years and support his ongoing commitment and efforts towards the peaceful resolution of the conflict in West Papua and the freedom of his people. I first met Benny in 2002 when he was a political prisoner in Indonesia, facing trial on politically motivated charges for which there was no credible evidence. I was struck by his principled commitment to his cause, peacefully advocating self-determination for his people, and by the support he had within the indigenous West Papuan community. At each of his trial dates, supporters would crowd outside the courthouse to support Benny, even though they knew that public association with him could lead to their arrest or being targeted for extrajudicial violence by Indonesian security forces. Throughout this period, we had grave concerns that Benny would be assassinated inside the prison. Benny is an inspiring and principled leader who is committed to the peaceful resolution of the conflict and ongoing injustice of Indonesia's unlawful occupation of West Papua. It is a privilege to work with him and to have seen the remarkable work he has been able to do from the safe haven provided to him by the City of Oxford. So I just want to share a few words from somebody who works so closely with Benny here in Oxford and continues to work with him. And I also wanted to say that this campaign now stands at a really critical moment, as I'm sure we'll hear from other speakers this evening. And it's also a critical moment in terms of the campaign's own capacity. It can only continue to make the great strides that it has if it has the people around it paid to support Benny's extraordinary work. So I also want to mention that need for financial support support. We're a wealthy city, and we in this room are well connected. So if you know of sources of finance for the campaign, that's also an important role that we in this room can play. And I know that there'll be people, there's leaflets distributed and people that we can speak to about how we can give that support. And lastly, I'd just say, as Craig has outlined, this city, this council and our national political representatives have played an important role in supporting Benny's campaign. I urge my fellow councillors to support this motion, and let us hope that in giving Benny the freedom of his and his family's city, that it can assist his work in campaigning for the freedom of his people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. So now it comes to the point where we actually vote on the conferment of the Honorary Freedom of the City of Oxford. And so I'm sure many of you would like to vote, only those in this block are able to vote. So I'll now put that motion to confer the freedom of the city to Benny Wenda to the vote amongst my councillors. Those in favour? Thank you. I believe that's okay. Anyone against? I believe that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Let me be the first to congratulate you. We have now a number of people who've been invited to speak. And we've tried to keep the speeches quite short, so hopefully we'll have everyone's supporting that so we can get to the reception. And then we'll have there, as I said, an opportunity to make other messages support. We have a microphone set up there as well as a rolling presentation. So if anyone does want to say a few words and haven't managed to fit on our very tight agenda, you'll be very welcome to have a sort of open mic, as it were, in the reception area. So, first I'd like to call upon Ambassador John Litt to the mic to speak. Nice.
Councillor Greg Simmons, Lord Mayor of Oxford City, councillors of the City of Oxford, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted and honored to be given this opportunity to say a few words on this auspicious occasion. Let us at the outset congratulate once again Mr. Benny Wenda for the award he has just received. For having chosen Benny Wenda for this year's award, the highly respected Oxford City Council deserve the country's thanks and the congratulations for making such a judicious choice. As the highest honor of the city and one of the oldest traditional ceremonies still in existence, the honorary award conferred upon Benny Wenda as the freedom of the city is, to say the least, right and fitting in the light of his eminent contribution to the city, but also in the global arena coupled with his humble beginnings and difficult challenges encountered, which are the very foundations of his great achievement. Benny, we have learned from the many excellent attributes you have displayed over the years by fighting tirelessly for the West Papua self-determination and on issues of human rights, that it takes courage to embrace the possibilities of your potential. Having flown past the summit of your fears, nothing is impossible. This well-deserved recognition could not come at a more opportune time, since the West Papua cause is rapidly getting momentum across the international stage in solidarity with states, the civil societies and churches, all because of your indomitable will, leadership and strength towards this noble cause. With such achievements and personal qualities, we can only endorse the acclaimed decision of the Oxford City Council to award Benny Wenda the well-deserved recognition of the Freedom of the City Honorary Award for 2019. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alistair. I'd now like to ask one of our MPs, Andy Stotts, to the stage to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor, and it's a pleasure to follow on from His Excellency and an absolutely enormous privilege and pleasure to be here as we confer the freedom of our city to Benny Wenda. And I must say that Benny really is one of our most remarkable citizens in so many ways. The experience that Benny went through before he came to our city would have broken many people. And yet he came here with his family, continued that activism, redoubled it, and now we see his message being taken up not just in the Westminster Parliament, but also amongst parliamentarians right across the world. And I'm so delighted to see many people from other countries here now also have signed up to support West Papuan independence. I'm very, very pleased that they are here now. I was absolutely delighted to be present when we were able to take that petition with 1.8 million signatures into Westminster. It's a huge petition. It has to be carried by Benny in an enormous bag on rollers to actually show the UK government quite how many people are concerned about this issue and how many people in West Papua are prepared to risk their safety in order to express their view about the need for independence. And I'm very, very pleased that we have here Alex Sobel MP, who's the chair of the APPG for West Papua, who helped to engineer some of those meetings. Benny, your story, I think, has inspired huge numbers of people in our city and beyond it. And as was already mentioned, one of them was my predecessor, Andrew Smith, and he's sorry that he can't be here today, but he asked me to say a couple of sentences on his behalf of warmest congratulations and good wishes to Benny and his family and everyone who has campaigned, and I think that's just about everyone here in the audience. All solidarity and support Benny, so the world puts right this injustice and self-determination for the people of West Papua is achieved. And I just want to end by saying that we in Oxford are very privileged. Because of Benny, we have a window to West Papua, and not many people are able to see what is happening there because of the ban on media coverage and because of the ban on journalists. We can look through that window, but we also have a responsibility, because we can look through it, to act on what we see, inspired by the example of Benny, who, as I said, I am absolutely delighted now has the freedom of our city. Thank you.
As has been said by many people, we've received so many messages for councillors' inboxes, certainly mine, and I expect many others, are being bombarded with messages of support that come either via the campaign office, or Benny's office, or direct to us, or through the Lord Mayor's office. But we felt that it was worth trying to introduce a couple of those into this part of the proceedings, although, as I said, some of them will also be conveyed later on. So, Councillor Hosnia Jafari Albini's very kindly agreed to read out some of those particularly special ones, so I'd like to welcome her to the stage.
and gentlemen, I'll be reading a message of support from Jeremy Corbyn, leader of the Labour Party, and Caroline Lucas, MP for Brighton Pavilion and former Green Party co-leader. Jeremy Corbyn, I regret that I'm not able to be here today to congratulate Benny in person on receiving this prestigious and well-deserved award. Benny, many congratulations to you. I've had the privilege of knowing Benny for a long time and have always deeply admired the great passion and spirit with which he has spoken up for the people of West Papua. He has been a tireless campaigner for the West Papuan people's rights to self-determination, earning international recognition for his advocacy and skilled diplomacy. Benny's commitment to today's struggle has been unfaltering, and I am pleased that his enormous contribution has today been recognised with this honour of the freedom of the city of Oxford. It is particularly fitting to be given by the city where he has lived as a political refugee for many years. My late brother died in Lae in Papua New Guinea after having lived there for some years. I developed a special affection for the island on my visit, for its history and, of course, its natural beauty. Being rich in natural resources, the island of Papua has inevitably attracted the interest of the mining industry, and sadly, decades of mineral extraction and exploitation have caused untold damage to the island and its people. Benny deserves recognition for his tremendous support for West Papua's environmental sustainability and the rights of its people who depend upon it. Congratulations to Benny and Oxford. And Caroline Lucas, I am absolutely delighted that Benny Wenda has been granted freedom of the city of Oxford. I've had the privilege of knowing Benny and his family for over 20 years and used to represent them when I was a member of the European Parliament. He is a passionate, courageous and charismatic campaigner for freedom and justice for West Papua. He unthinkingly speaks truth to power despite considerable risk to himself and his family, and has done a vast amount to raise awareness of the treatment of his people by the Indonesian authorities and army. Oxford has always given a warm welcome to Benny, and I am sure the city will be proud he chose to make it his home and that this honour has been bestowed upon him. And from me, a first-generation immigrant, daughter of someone who also escaped persecution, to you, a massive congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we were meant to have at this point George Monbiot speaking. I had a message that would be slightly delayed. So I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead to make the award to Benny, and then we'll hear from Benny. And then if George does turn up, which I'm really sure he will, then we'll either hear from him later or in the reception. So that's probably the best way to deal with that. Now formally, I'd like to invite you to the stage, Benny, to accept your framed certificate of award. So thank you, Benny. The stage is yours.
Your Excellency, Honorable Member of Parliament, Lord Mayor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. This is a true honor to be with you all here today. May I begin by greeting you all on behalf of my people, a traditional language, wa, 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 wa. When I was small boy, just about 5 years old, the Indonesian military bombed my village, killing family members in front of my eyes. I grew up in the jungle for almost 5 years. I saw many of my young friends die from malaria and starvation. It was in goodwill that I survived. When I went to high school, an Indonesian settler girl spat in my face on the first day. I did not understand. I thought maybe I smelled bad. I did not understand. I thought maybe I smelled bad, and that evening I was myself 3 times over the shop. The next day, the girl spat in my face again. Indonesia sees West Papuans as different, as inferior. We are black and they are not. Indonesia treats us like second-class citizens in our own land. Growing up, I saw much violence, discrimination, brutal inflicted by Indonesians on us, the native West Papuan. I was born with this issue. I have grown old with it. This struggle is therefore in my blood. West Papua is one of the richest places on this planet. Exotic species and minerals. The Indonesian state has always wanted our resources and is willing to eliminate people of West Papua where it can to get our wealth. At the university, I stood up with others for our right to self-determination, independence. For this activity, I was imprisoned and tortured as I lay chained in solitary confinement for over a month and facing 25 years in prison, Indonesian prison, on 4 charges. I knew I had mission. I had to tell the world what is happening to the people of West Papua. The limp in my leg from the bomb dropped on my village when I was 5. The scar on my ankle from the prison chains are what I carry with me everywhere I go. They are the physical reminders of the suffering of all my people. Those are reminders that colonial exploitation continue in this 21st century in West Papua. Although I am honored to receive this freedom of the award, City Award, I'm not truly a free man. I will not be free until I can return to my homeland, a free and independent West Papua. I did not come to Oxford to seeking a better life, but with a mission until we can stop the genocide of people, until we can stop the destruction of our resources, our mountains, our rivers, until killing and torture ends, until our Morning Star flag, that is Morning Star flag, can be raised without being sought and imprisoned. I will not be free. Today is another step along the long road to home. This is my personal story, but nearly every West Papua has their own similar story to tell. This is historic city has always recognized struggle of oppressed people. So Nelson Mandela received the Freedom the City Award. This award is for people of West Papua to recognize their voice, the cry for justice and freedom for the last 58 years. On behalf of people of West Papua, I say thank you to this award. It's a very significant to West Papuans who for several days have been risking their life, marching and praying, thankful for your solidarity. My profound gratitude to the Lord Mayor, the City Council and the former Lord Mayor for conferring this award, and the Licia Hodgkin team for organizing this event. Time will not permit me to thank every individual person who has given assistance to me and my family in this struggle, but I do want to name a few people. Firstly, my wife, Maria. Who has raised our children selflessly when I have been away. I couldn't have done without you. The local Oxford community, especially thank you to George Mamio, Jess Ward, Mark Selbo, James, Anton River, Reverend Dr. Price, my vicar, and supportive church, and the doctor at the Nelfield Hospital who helped to repair my bomb-damaged leg. The Free West Papua campaign was set up here in this city with the vital assistance of so many people in Oxford who are here today. Thank you to ever so much. Also want to thank the British parliamentarians group for West Papua led by Alex Sobel, Richard Harris, Anna Dodd, John Howell, Caroline Lucas, and Lord Dexon, including the international lawyer for West Papua. My deep gratitude also goes to Bertha Foundation, London, for their continued valuable support. Thank you to the Foundation of Law Justice Society, Wolston College, and the research in the Department of Politics, the University of Warwick, for what they have published. I must also thank you to Prime Minister, to the government, and people of Vanuatu who for decade have led the way with their unending sacrifice and support. Ambassador John Leeds and Noah Kuba who are here. I thank you to government of Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, and all the Pacific nations. I thank all the activists and churches across Melanesia the Pacific who are tirelessly support us, and the international solidarity groups across the globe from Australia to South Africa. Special thanks to the United Liberation Movement for West Papua and our diplomats across the world. Finally, people back home, my people back home, elders in the bush, in the refugee camp, in exile, wherever you are, this freedom of the city of Oxford is your award. It is for your hard work and for your tireless campaign. Continue your struggle to liberate yourself from tyranny. We have made progress on many fronts on the international stage at the UN Human Rights Commission and the UN Decolonization Committee, where we present our petition signed by 1.8 million indigenous West Papuans. In conclusion, each one of you make history. No matter how little, you can help the struggle for free the people of West Papua. In fact, that you are already part of the history today being here. Your prayer, contribution and solidarity will be forever cherished in the heart of the people of West Papua. With humility and sincere gratitude, I say thank you, Oxford. We hope in God's mercy, Papua Merdeka, free West Papua. Papua Merdeka, free West Papua.
Slightly out of order, we'll now go to George. Thank you very much, George. George did tell us he'd be a little bit late, but you're all standing did us the reception now. So.
Right, I'll have to be quick. Sorry, Benny, to come so late. It's a total delight to be here. The occupation of West Papua is a blot on the surface of the planet, and the complicity of powerful nations in that ongoing occupation should be a source of shame to everyone who lives in them. This has been happening now since the year of my birth, when the Indonesians first occupied West Papua and then engineered this farcical act of free choice, which was the very opposite of what it said it was, and then extraordinarily the rich nations of the world decided to not exactly endorse it, but not reject it either, to nod it through and accept the occupation of West Papua as a kind of fact on the ground. And of course it suited them to do so, because at the time we were in the throes of the so-called Cold War, and Suharto's Indonesia was seen as a Western asset. Our son of a bitch, as they used to call him, as he used to say, they recognised he was a very unpleasant man, but hey, he was on our side, so what did it matter? And then, of course, it became a place that corporations from powerful nations could loot. And it is looting when you don't have the consent of the people of the nation to operate there. It is straightforward theft of resources. And that theft of resources is continuing, in some cases engineered by extremely large companies based in this country. We conspire, though we may not all know it, in the theft of the patrimony of peoples who have not consented to the presence of those corporations in their nation. So it gives me tremendous pleasure that Benny has been granted freedom here of the kind he cannot enjoy in his own nation. A nation whose very existence has in effect been rubbed off the map. If you look at a world atlas, you'll see West Papua as labelled part of Indonesia, as if it is not a nation in its own right. There's this sort of conspiracy of silence that effectively gives its blessing to this illegal, brutal, genocidal occupation. So in conferring the freedom of the city to Benny, we recognise the deferred and delayed freedom of him and his people. And I know that every one of us in this room wishes him and the West Papuan people our love, our solidarity, and our wishes for the freedom which is theirs by right, but has so far been denied them. Thank you.
My last job, thank you very much, George. My last job today is to officially close the ceremony. I'd like to do so by certainly thanking all those who have attended. Also, I'd like to thank the town hall staff, Lizzie and the other people who've managed to, and David and Paul, who've managed to put a lot of effort in to arrange this event this evening and to make sure we're all seated and you all had the invitations and people like me knew what they were meant to do and whatever we were meant to do. So thank you very much to the town hall staff. And so I'd like to formally close the ceremony and invite guests to join me and fellow councillors with Ben and his family in the old library next door there for a reception. And as I said, we will have an open mic there if anyone would like to say something. And we've got a presentation there supplied by the Free West Papua campaign that tries to draw together some of the many, many other messages of support we have. So, with that, I'd like to thank everyone and formally close the meeting.
Ladies and gents, not to make way for